This is Learn to Swim with Me, episode number 6, reminding which means you can swim as far as you want on the water. Propel ourselves forward. When I take a deep breath, and then, were you familiar or anxiety when you're bringing into the water that's unresolved? But if you're ready to begin, let's do it. Welcome to the final video in the Learn to Swim with Me series, where we will finally learn how to side breathe when swimming freestyle, which for many of you is kind of the pinnacle, the goal of this entire series. So congratulations for making it this far. My name is Coach Jeff. Are you ready? Let's begin. And make sure you stick around to the end of the video, as I will give you 3 crucial freestyle drills that will help improve your efficiency, that will also help you make the side breathing process easier. I'm going to show that at the end of the video after this entire step-by-step process on side breathing. So stick around to the end for that. In this video, we will be building on the foundations that we covered in episode number 7, which is rolling completely onto our back to get a fresh breath before moving back onto our stomach to continue swimming. So if you did not have a chance to watch or master those concepts, we just keep moving in this episode. So stop this video, go back and watch that one. Make sure your foundation is totally solid before jumping into this video. But with that being said, let's begin the side breathing process. Side breathing, I want us to begin actually standing up. And we start that process just from the side of the pool, because if we can't do or we can't get a side breath while standing, then it's a monumental task to ask you as a brand new swimmer to learn how to get a side breath while moving. All right, so this is where we begin our side breath process. What we're going to do is take a big, deep breath, fill our lungs with air. We're going to put our face in, and we're going to take 4 strokes before turning our head sideways to get a breath. Now, it's very important that you decide which side you're going to breathe on. It was common in like the 90s and 2000s to bilateral breathe or breathe on both sides. However, it is my best thinking with my students that we only want to breathe to our dominant side, or the side that you use to write with a pencil. For me, that's my right-hand side. So you will watch me demonstrate these concepts only to my right side. And I would like for you to do that as well, whichever side is your dominant side. So with that being said, let me show you this process where we take a deep breath, put our face in, take 4 strokes, turn our head to the side, and get a fresh breath. Here is what it looks like. Step number 2 of learning how to side breathe from a standing position is beginning to exhale underwater. And I'm going to show you 2 different examples of how to do that. And I want you to practice both and then choose whichever one of those 2 is most comfortable for you. Way number 1 is a continuous, gentle exhale from the moment we start putting our face in the water. Way number 2 is waiting until our 4th stroke and having a more forceful or intentional exhale at that point before turning our head to breathe. Let me show you example number 1 first, and then I'll show you example number 2 so that you can practice both and decide which one is right for you. Here's example number 1. And here's example number 2, where we hold in our air for strokes 1, 2, and 3, and only as our 4th stroke is stroking, moving, almost finishing, that's when we start to exhale. Watch this example. Now, before we go on to step number 3, I want you to do a self-check-in and ask yourself, are you actually breathing when you turn your head to the side? It is really common when we're learning a brand new skill, especially side breathing, to not actually breathe when we open our mouth. It's sort of a defense mechanism that our body uses. And I would say around 8 out of 10 of my students don't actually breathe when turning our head to the side. So what I want you to do, one, is check in with yourself and answer that question. Are you actually breathing? If the answer is yes, then let's progress on to step number 3. If the answer is no, then I want you to stay here at this step. Continue practicing until 10 times in a row you are breathing in when you're turning your head to the side. You see, there's no point in us progressing to more advanced skills until we get a full breath, a full inhale into our lungs, because everything just keeps building onto that. So stop the video at this point and answer that question. Step number 3, we're going to begin swimming freestyle and breathing on the 4th stroke. I only want you to do 1 full repetition of this before stopping and restarting, and then answering that same question we just asked, which is, are you actually breathing? So let me show you what I want step number 3 to look like now. All right, let's talk about the timing of our breath so that we make sure we're turning our head at the appropriate time every time. All right, so as a reminder, we're breathing on the 4th stroke. So as our 4th arm, which for me is this arm, starts to come forward and hit the water, my body opens up. Starting from my hips, I roll to the side, I extend my arm, and my head turns from my nose looking straight down at the bottom to my ear looking straight down at the bottom to get my breath. And then my next arm continues moving, and as my now right arm finishes this stroke and starts to come forward, my body rolls back to the center point, and my face looks back down at the bottom of the pool. Let me show you the timing of this one more time, and then we'll go into the 3 most common mistakes that new swimmers make at this point with timing. So check this out. This is the way I want it to look. Next arm. Common mistake number 1 that I see really most often are students turning their head too late. And when we turn our head too late, what ends up happening is we're turning our head into our armpit when we're trying to take a breath. And there's a couple of problems with this. Number 1, as our arm is coming forward, it's bringing a lot of water. So it can tend to get water in our mouth and in our nose, which is just uncomfortable as we're starting out. Number 2, as our arm is coming forward and we're turning our head, it makes it really tricky to get a good breath when our face is in our armpit. So we really want to avoid that if we can. Let me show you what that looks like to have a delayed or too late turning of our head for the side breath. Check it out. Common mistake number 2 is lifting our head up and then turning it to the side. And this becomes really problematic because, as I've mentioned in many other videos in this series, our head weighs a lot. And any time that we lift it up, our body, the rest of our body, if this is my head and this is my legs, our body will start to sink in the water and we start pushing a lot of water. The other problem with that is we're lifting it up and turning it is And I've corrected this from a prior video where I said this was Einstein, but this is Newton's third law. I think it was Einstein that said that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, which is every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So when we lift our head up and turn it, what's going to happen is our head has to come back down, and then we end up submerging ourselves underwater, which makes it very difficult for us to get a breath. But nonetheless, let me show you what it looks like to lift our head forward into the side, which is something we completely want to avoid. Check this out. And common mistake number 3 is how far our head is rotating. Now, if you've ever watched any other instructional videos on how to side breath, many instructors will tell you that turning your head too far up is a mistake because it can come at the cost of your buoyancy in the water. But as we are complete beginners to this process, I tend to disagree with that philosophy. You see, we're kind of building off of our complete rotation where we went all the way to our back. So for now, I want us to realize that the most important thing that we do is get a fresh breath. And if that means that we're rotating a little bit too far to get it right now, I'm completely okay with that, especially in the beginning stages. As we advance into freestyle 201 or 301, then we can start to really clean up that technique. But for now, that's completely okay. But the mistake here is not turning enough. And that's when we start to open our mouth when it's still underwater and we're inhaling water into our mouth. That's a complete mistake. Let me show you what that looks like so I can make sure, hopefully, that you avoid making that yourself at home when practicing that. Check it out. All right, the next step in our side breathing progression is to complete one cycle of turning our head to the side and breathing. And then we're gonna complete a full second cycle, only we're gonna turn completely onto our back and relax and get a fresh breath on our back. And then stand up. So put this all together. 4 strokes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn your head to the side and breathe. Head back down. 1, 2, 3, lead arm rolls all the way onto our back, and we hang out and make sure we're getting a full breath of air and we're recovering and relaxing. Let me show you what I want that to look like. All right, the next step in this progression is to do the same thing that we just did. 4 strokes, turn our head to the side to breathe. 4 strokes, roll on our back. Only instead of stopping at this point, we want to then roll back onto our front and complete that same cycle again. 4 strokes, turn our head to the side to breathe. 4 strokes, roll onto our back. All right, so we're completing that cycle twice, and it looks like this. All right, the next step in this progression is to do 2 cycles of side breathing before 1 cycle of rolling onto our back. And that looks like this. Now, I want you to complete this process all the way up to 4 or 5 cycles of side breathing and a rotation after that. I'm not going to show that entire process because I'm sure after doing it twice in a row, you know what that is going to look like. But as you're practicing at home, the process will be 1 cycle of side breath before rotating on our back, 2 cycles of side breathing before rotating on our back, 3, 4, and 5 before rotating on our back. Once you have completed successfully 5 cycles of side breathing before rotating on your back, and you're getting a full breath of air, then I leave it to you at this point to choose how frequently, if at all, you want to continue rolling onto our back. Rolling onto our back is a fantastic way to get as much air as we want, to recover our energy, to relax, and it's a great safety tool. And know that you always have the ability to do that if you want to, but once you've hit 5 side breaths in a row, there's not really the biggest need for it at that point moving forward. Now, as promised earlier in the video, I want to go over a few simple drills that you can do at home to increase your efficiency when swimming freestyle. And then I'm actually going to add in a bonus, which are 2 of the 3 most common mistakes that new swimmers make when swimming freestyle. All right, so let's start with the most important swimming drill, I think, which is called catch-up drill. Okay, catch-up drill is meant to make our strokes longer by forcing us to touch our hand in front before starting our next stroke. Hence, one hand is catching up to the other. This isn't like the ketchup that we put on hot dogs or French fries, right? One hand is catching up to the other. Let me show you what I want that to look like now. All right, drill number 2, I would say, is a little bit less of a drill and more of a process, and it helps build on catch-up drill a little bit, and that is increasing our distance per stroke with every stroke. So here's what I want you to do to practice this. I want you to swim across your pool one length and count the number of strokes that you're taking. Each hand touching counts as 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So just count the number of strokes it takes you to complete one length. Then on the next length, I want you to try to reach further, which means normally that instead of just entering the water and immediately beginning to pull, we want to lengthen out the arm, extend the arm before we pull, extend before we pull. And the goal of length number 2 is to decrease your total number of strokes by 1. So let's say you took 20 on the first length. The second length, your goal is to complete that same distance in 19. All right, then I want you to do it again and try to hit 18. And I want you to do that process until you have reached a point where you believe you achieved sort of maximum efficiency with freestyle. All right, you see a lot of new swimmers will just turn their arms over and over again, and it's super fatiguing, especially if we're adding in really hard kicking into that process. So lengthening it out not only increases the efficiency, it makes it so that you're a little bit less tired. All right, let me show you what I want that to look like here with 2 lengths of the pool. The first one I'll turn my arms over too quickly, and then I'll increase my efficiency on the second one. Check it out. Now, when we increase our distance per stroke and our reach, I think I did around 21 strokes there. Watch what happens to that same distance in my stroke count just by increasing my length. Now, how awesome was that? On the first length, I took 21 strokes. On the second length, I only took 10. And it's really important to know, I'm not asking you to drop your total stroke count by half. I showed that so that I could really emphasize the point. Remember, your goal is only to drop one stroke every time you do this until you reach your place of maximum efficiency with swimming freestyle. And let's move on to drill number 3, which I just call high reach drill. And the goal of this is just to reach our arms up as high as we can in the water. And I like to have my new students complete this drill because many new swimmers, when they first start out, will push the water or not get their arms completely out of the water when they start swimming freestyle. And although this is okay, it's making us work much harder than we need to. Here's why. As we're swimming freestyle, we are pushing this water with our hand behind us, which is making us go forward in the water. So if we bring our arm back forward underwater, we're pushing that water in the opposite direction, which is completely stalling our progress. And we don't want to do that because my goal is not to have you work harder, it's to swim smarter. So let me show you 2 examples here. Example number 1 is what I don't want you to do, which is keeping our arms in the water. And then we'll move to example number 2, which is what I want you to do, which is lifting those arms way up out of the water. Check it out. Now, this is what I want you to do. Now, I've already covered one of the 2 most common mistakes that new swimmers make, which is pushing the water. Mistake number 2 is looking up to see where we're going in the water. And this is really common. It's human nature. When you're in a swimming pool or ocean or lake and you're swimming, you want to look up to see what's in front of you so you don't hit the wall, what have you. Problem with that, as I mentioned in this video, head weighs a lot, makes our body sink in the water, which makes us swim uphill or just push a bunch of water. So I'm going to show you 2 examples here. One is where my head is up. Watch my body positioning, how low it is in the water. And the second way is what I want you to do, which is just have our head and spine completely in alignment and watch how much more buoyant I am in the water. Check this out. And I tell you, that is hard work swimming like that. So instead of having our head up looking where we're going, I want you to have your spine in alignment, which looks like this. Congratulations, everyone. This completes your Learn to Swim, I would say, introductory transformation. Wow, we have covered a lot, from finding relaxation out of the water to how to enter the water peacefully, how to walk around the shallow end, warm our body up, how to hold our breath for up to 30 seconds, how to front float and find your perfect front float, how to glide in the water, get a fresh breath, how to glide in the water, roll onto our back, how to back float in the water, how to back glide in the water, how to rotate from our front to our back, and then here in the conclusion, how to get a perfect side breath so that you can now swim entire lengths of a pool or however far you want to go without stopping. This is a monumental step in your Learn to Swim process, so congratulations and well done. If you are struggling with any part of this process, I urge you to come join our Learn to Swim community. At the time of this filming, we have over 130 swimmers just like you learning how to swim for the first time And we have great tips and tricks, courses, 30-day Learn to Swim Accelerator programs where we will teach you how to do this entire transformation process and guide you every step of the way in 30 days. And then we also have epic Learn to Swim 6-day retreats here in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And you can get all of that information by clicking on the link in the description below.